Hello everyone, this video is going to talk about troubleshooting dryers that are taking too long to dry. Most of the time when people start having a dryer that takes too long to dry, they think, well, my heating element is going out on it. Well, that's usually not the case. Most problems that will cause a dryer to take too long to dry, or normal time is now taking twice as long, sometimes even more than that, it's usually related to a airflow problem. And you need two things for your dryer to be able to dry efficiently. One thing you need is you got to have heat, but you also have to have good airflow to remove the wet, moist air away from the clothes and let them dry. So what I want to talk about is a bunch of different things that can cause the symptoms that you're having when your dryer takes too long to dry. And most of the things are actually not the dryer's fault. It's usually something to do either in the ducting through the wall, or the exhaust hose coming off the back of the dryer, or at the end of the ducting where it comes out to the outside, and that's where we'll start. If you'll look at this one, I'm going to show you one that has a door on it, and as I press it down, the dryer is running, it kicks that door right back open, and the air is obviously flowing real strong on this particular dryer and through the whole system and all the way to the outside. Well, this is what you want to find. Unfortunately, sometimes you'll find that you have a stuck door due to lint buildup or whatever. Maybe the hinges on it could have got rusty if it has some metal parts to it. You could have louvers that can get stuck. Maybe one or two of them's opening and the rest are not. You usually have like 4 or 5 louvers on them on those styles. Sometimes if you'll look down in there, you'll find that there's a screen at the very end. Looks like a screen door screen. And that screen, of course, is to keep critters, bugs, etc. from going up inside there. The problem with the screen design is there's no easy way to clean that, and you have to take the whole thing apart to get in there and clean the lint, and the lint will build up over time on that and make it blocked. So if you can see there that it's blocked with lint, then you need to remove the outside part of that exhaust duct housing and clean out that lint. If there's any kind of blockage whatsoever, whether it be bird's nest, squirrels can make a little nest in there, different things, especially if you've just moved into some place that hasn't had a dryer in use in a long time, you may find this problem. But get it all cleaned out. It has to have good strong airflow all the way through to the end, including right there where the louvers and the door are supposed to be opening and closing when the air is flowing. If your door is sticking, you might try a little WD-40 on it or something like that, and maybe you won't have to replace the whole thing. Moving further along the line here, between this and the wall on the inside of the house where the duct attaches, that could get clogged up with lint, and if it does, it can restrict the airflow. And then finally, the air duct itself that comes off the back of the dryer and goes to the wall, if that is crushed in any way or crimped, if you've pushed the dryer too close to the wall and crushed it, any of those crushed spots can cause it to build up lint at that location. It'll catch on it when it's just flowing through. And of course, when it catches on it and starts to build up, it makes a blockage and restricts the airflow. Not to mention the reduced airflow just from it being bent in the first place. So if you have this style, these are easy to bend and turn and all that good stuff. As long as they're not crushing or crimped or smashed, then you should be okay. You want to take it off and make sure the inside is clean. You'll probably find a little bit in there, but if it's very dirty at all, you want to go ahead and wash it out and then let it dry completely before trying to use it again. But you can use a garden hose to wash these out. There's also, if it comes off the back of the dryer and then makes an immediate 90-degree turn, and then you push it against the wall and crush it, don't want to have that. It can make a turn, that's fine, but you just don't want to have it crushing anywhere. There's also the aluminum style, which a lot of people recommend. They're a lot more difficult to overheat and catch on fire, obviously. It's a metal duct. The problem with those, once it bends, it don't bend back out on its own. They're very, very hard to get them straight again. So if you have one and you've actually got it bent or crushed, remove the whole thing and get in there, being careful not to cut yourself, because it's very easy to cut yourself on the ends of these things, especially on the aluminum ones. but get it back to where it's bent back out to where it's round again. Any kind of blockage there could cause your airflow problem and create longer dry times than what you want to normally have. So now that we've talked about the things on the outside, you want to make sure that those are everything okay before we go ahead and start taking the dryer apart and looking at some other things that can cause it to take too long to dry. And what I would recommend, of course, before you do anything on a dryer or any machine, you want to go ahead and unplug it and then remove the hose from it and then pull it away from the wall where you can work on it. We're going to be showing pictures of a Kenmore and Whirlpool style dryer. Those are pretty common, but these same techniques pretty much apply to most brands of dryers. We want to go ahead and take the back off so we can remove the blower housing, and we're going to check it and see if it's full of lint or full of debris or what have you, and get it cleaned out, because anything built up in there can also restrict the airflow. So I'm going to show you a quick video on doing that sort of thing, on how to remove the lint box, and be right back. Now that we've eliminated or fixed, hopefully, any kind of issues that we had with the blower box housing being clogged up, take a quick look on the inside of the dryer. Some models, like the Kenmore that we're working on, you have two sets of holes on the bulkhead there on the inside of the drum. One set is where the hot air comes in, of course it mixes with the clothes, and then the other set of holes is where it goes back out. If you use dryer sheets, sometimes those dryer sheets will flatten out and get stuck against those exhaust hoses where the air gets pulled out at, and it'll make a blockage there. And a lot of times it's white, it's very close to the same color as the bulkhead, and you may not notice it. As a matter of fact, it's kind of hard to see those holes anyways from when you're standing up, and you probably never even notice them. So take a look at those, and if there's anything stuck on there that's blocking any of your airflow, remove it. That'll help it take less time to dry. The other thing that's very critical is the lint trap itself. Remove the lint trap and clean it, of course, every use before you start using it. The problem with the lint building up is, well, that's where the air goes to on its way out to carry the moisture away. And the more lint that builds up, the harder it is to remove that moisture and the longer it's going to take to dry. If you have a lint trap that's old and wore out and gotten stuff stuck to it to where you can't even clean it properly, go ahead and invest in and buy a new lint trap, because that will make a difference on how long it takes for your clothes to dry. If you can't clean it properly, then it's time to go ahead and replace it. But definitely clean it every use. As a matter of fact, if you're doing clothes that have heavy lint, maybe like blue jeans or something, and you don't want it to take quite as long to get through drying, let it dry for 15 minutes or so, and then go ahead and pull that lint trap out and clean it real quick before it gets done. That'll help it to go ahead and finish the rest of the drying on them in a quicker time, because it's not struggling to pull that air through all that lint. Okay. The other things that affect how long it takes for it to dry are mechanical, and we're going to talk about those. First will be the heating element, and even if your heating element is good in making heat, as far as you know it's good, it could still have a problem. Sometimes the heating element will, the coil will break and then snap and weld itself to the inside housing there, and once it does that, that part of that heating element will be the only part that works, and it'll work all the time whether it's supposed to or not, because it's got itself its own ground when it does that. So you'll be having heat, but it may not be the right amount of heat, probably won't be, and therefore it'll take longer to dry than normal. So to check for that, of course, make sure your dryer's unplugged. It should be if you're already inside there working on it, and mind all the sharp edges when you're working on these parts, because they will cut you. Go ahead and remove the heating element and just inspect the coils and make sure everything looks okay. If everything's fine, put it right back on. You should be good to go there. You can also use an ohm meter and go ahead and remove the wires. Here's the regular Kenmore Whirlpool style one. Remove the wires from the ceramic down here at the bottom, from the ceramic insulator, and then attach the leads of your ohm meter and have it set to the lowest setting, which on this one's continuity. Okay, and when you do that, you'll get us a reading, and of course I'm getting 0.002 when I put the leads together, so I'm going to take a 2 off of what I get here. And I'm reading about right at 11 on here, so that's going to be 9 because of the 2. So you're going to have a very low resistance. Now to test for any kind of shorts that you might have, go from one terminal and then to the housing, and notice I get no continuity. And then do the same thing from the other terminal to the housing. Again, no continuity. That's what you should get. If you get continuity going from terminal to the housing, you need to replace the heating element. So any of those can cause problems. If the coil breaks and springs onto there and only a fourth of the heating element is lighting up, of course, it's not going to get as hot as it's supposed to, and therefore take way too long to dry. Okay, the other things that are mechanical that can cause it to take too long to dry would be the thermostats themselves. And I'm going to show you a video here of the high temperature cutout fuse and thermostat. And I'll probably just show you the part of the thermostat, because your fuse isn't bad if you're getting heat. And same thing with the thermal fuse on the blower box. If your dryer starts, it's not bad either. Doesn't mean the thermostats are working at the right temperature though. And the thermostats can be expensive, so you want to make sure you do those as a last resort. You can test them by what temperatures they open and close if you have a thermometer that you can read digitally the heat that it's at when it opens and closes. But if everything else is tested good at this point, your best bet is to go ahead and just replace the thermostats. There's 2 of them on the Kenmores and Whirlpools. Other models may just have 1, some may have 3, but you're not going to know which thermostat it is that's causing the problem. So if you've eliminated all other causes and possibilities, go ahead and get some new thermostats and change them out. And here's a video on changing thermostats. I'll show you both thermostats, the operating thermostat on the blower box, and then the high temperature cutout thermostat located on the side of the heating element. Alright, there you go.